So the Six Nations is done. Congratulations, France. And our attention now turns to the British and Irish Lions tour down to Australia. Sam Walton, John Barkley are in the studio with us. Round one, we asked them to pick their British and Irish Lions team. Let's have a look at yours. Remind yourself of what you picked 5 rounds ago. And let's see how that now then converts to this week. So this was it. Porter, Sheehan, Ferguson, Byrne, Itoje, Curry, Doris, Darge, Gibson Park, Crowley, Lawrence with Hugh Jones, Graham, King, Horn and Lowe. Shock horror, 5 Scottish players. OK, let's now...
You're right.
I'm fine. Are you?
I'm good.
This is your team of today, and there's still 5 Scottish players, which is remarkable. Who'd have thought it?
Talk us through 5 in there.
Yeah, talk us through it.
Yeah, I think obviously round one was based on what we saw in round one, and we didn't really consider maybe the guys that hadn't maybe played in the Championship. I mean, the main change would be Will Stewart and Ellis Genge. I think best scrummaging performance throughout the Championship. I think Will Stewart is such a low penalty count, gets through so much work, and Ellis Genge as well, for me, just gets through so much good work, and the nuts and bolts of his game are superb. I kept the same second row. I think we've really just cemented down that Maro Itoje, and we chatted about it just earlier, probably captain, just getting through so much good work. Back row, I think, is probably the one I had to change. I had Rory Darge, who I think has fallen off slightly. I think Jack Morgan, in a Wales side that is struggling to even stand out to the level he has. I just imagine him with the quality of players and coaching and structure around him. I put Tom Curry at 6. It could easily be Ben.
Yeah.
It could be one of them. I think they have been up there with the best players of the Championship. And the back line, I've put Tui Plotton. Gibson Park is streets ahead for me. Freeman's in there. Van der Merwe could be a toss of a coin for me for James Lowe, but I just like the look of the 10, 12, 13 from Scotland with the kind of grunt that exists around them up front. Yeah,
plenty of cohesion there, plenty of familiar faces. Sam, let's have a look and remind us of your team that you selected in round one. So again, Sheehan, Ferguson, same second rows as John Barkley, familiar faces in that back row, and then a back line of Gibson Park, Prendergast, Aki, Lawrence, gutted for Lawrence, not in contention, of course, Achilles injury last week, and then a back three of Lowe, Kinghorn and Darcy Graham. This is your updated one. Now we've had 5 rounds. Yeah. Let's have a look.
Well, Welsh classic.
Well,
unbelievable.
Well, the first Lions team, we picked that strictly on round one players only, just because some people might be wondering why there's some players missing. And now I've just gone, right, whoever I think is going to be available. So I've gone furlong because I would never normally pick a player on form in just this latter part of the domestic season, but players who've got credit in the bank, I think, deserve to have that. And there's a lot of rugby from now into the Lions tour. If Furlong gets 5 games for Leinster and 3 games on tour, he rolls into a test game with 9 games under his belt, 8, 9 games. So there's plenty of rugby for him to get fit. And if he does get fit, his ceiling is higher than any tight head. So that's why I've gone Furlong. Genge is just incredibly physical, great ball carrier, set-piece player. Sheehan, one of the best in the world. I've gone Martin because physicality wins up front. Martin brings that grunt. I think out of sight, out of mind for a lot of people. He got injured against France, but Martin, I think, is the best enforcer in the home Isles. Like I said, it could be a toss of a coin on either Curry. I think Morgan's been exceptional in a poor Wales team, and Doris with his leadership at number 8 as well. Gibson Park is quite a simple one at 9. I think so is Russell at 10. I think he's really missed Tui Plotton, and I've gone Tui Plotton. If he gets back and he just has any sort of game time, if he has 1 game before the tour, that's enough, because he's going to get another 3 games on tour for a test game. So 4 games under his belt, he'll be flying. Lowe, great kicking game, really physical, love his energy. Freeman, brilliant under the high ball, great carrier. And I've gone for a bit of a curveball at Murray. I just think, before the tournament, somebody asked me who's going to be my best newcomer. And I said Blair Murray. Didn't get picked in the first game, so that didn't go too well. Comes from a great pedigree, comes from Canterbury Crusaders, so great background. I just think he's an exceptional athlete, got that counter-attack ability, good under the high ball, brave in defence, and I just think he can create something from nothing. Him and Kinghorn, I'll be honest, that's the toss of a coin. Kinghorn's been excellent as well, and has got better as the tournament's gone on. But that's my curveball at 15.
I think a lot of people considered Andy Farrell having a team massively stacked of Irish players because of their form, and it's not been quite convincing. Do you think it's a bit of a curveball to Faz?
I think it's certainly opened things up a little bit. And I think you're looking at, and we chat about this a lot, imagine it's just a case of how much can you take a player who's maybe in a Welsh side like Jack Morgan and say, well, what does he look like in a team coached by Andy Farrell with the other players around him? And I think Arguably the same with Scotland, I think, with some of the players, Blair Kinghorn, the Hugh Jones, Tuipulotus. What do they look like in a team with, which I alluded to, with just so much organisation and that ruthless edge, which maybe they don't have with Scotland? So it made things interesting for Andy Farrell, that's for sure.
Yeah, toughest position, you've all already identified, is that back row. But perhaps a position that commands so much respect, so much responsibility is the fly half. It's not been nailed on, but you've both picked Finn Russell. You can understand that.
I think put him outside Gibson Park,
yeah,
and then put a Tuipulotu on his shoulder as well and put him behind that pack. Like we've seen how devastating it is for Bath. I know Bath and Lions is different, Prem and Lions is different, but like at Bath he's exceptional, and Bath have been probably the most physical team in the Prem this season. When he's off the back of that, my goodness, he's just amazing ball in hand. So, it would be his third tour as well. So vastly experienced player now to sort of hold the reins at 10. I think put those players around him, it enhances him even more. And I think he is probably the most naturally gifted 10 that we've got, in the world, arguably. But I just think Finn Russell around those players, he could just go to another level again.
What kind of challenge do you think Australia will pose?
Well, I think a year ago that would have been a very different answer. I think you saw in the autumn the level of competition they've got, and I think they're probably the team in World Rugby that I look at and think, look at the athletic profile of that team. And we talk about Wales all the time, they would die to have players of that athletic profile, power. Joe Schmidt there seems to be bringing a lot out of them. I think you see through that team, there's enough at that time to build a bit more cohesion, which you saw in the autumn. I think they'll be dangerous. You
selected a team. Andy Farrell selects his coaching team next week. What coaches do you think he's going to bring into the fold?
You don't pick a coaching team on like players, on who's like the most informed coach now. There's got to be cohesion in a coaching team, and a coach has to use someone and select a group who he knows. So it's not unlikely. It won't happen that Farrell will pick attack coach, forwards coach, defence coach that he hasn't worked with before. It doesn't work like that. You don't just go, right, who's got the best statistics in the home nations or the clubs, and let's go with him. He needs people he can trust. So it makes you think that someone like a Simon Easterby, who he was known as and worked so well with him, Paul O'Connell as a set-piece coach could be a great addition. It won't all be Irish, so there will be some pickings from outside.
Johnny Sexton have a role?
I think his mentality would certainly be benefited on tour. I think it's a big one to put him in ahead of a lot of attack coaches who've done their time, for example. But for him to work with kickers, one-to-one, and kickers isn't just 10s, your 15s, your 12s, they all need kicking practice, I think he'd be great as a mentor to be on that tour as well. And you certainly wouldn't harm the group. If you've got someone with that mentality there, it would benefit.
Warren Gatland brought in Andy Farrell initially as a defence coach instead of Sean Edwards. Do you think Andy Farrell might repay that favour, bring Sean back on tour? France are the best defence in the Six Nations.
Well, best defence. You see the way that France have gone through the championship. All the talk when he didn't get picked was he was just gutted, wasn't he, for that tour? He didn't get picked by Gatland. He was devastated to miss out. And I think his sixth title as a coach in the Six Nations. I think
53 major titles now as a player and a coach.
He's got it all. So yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. So I think he'd be a great addition. You know him better than me, Warby, but everyone you speak to about that guy raves about just the impact he has and the detail around defence.
Yeah, plenty to discuss and deliberate over the next few weeks for sure. We look out for Andy Farrell's coaching team next week. The lads have picked their British and Irish Lions teams. What do you think of them?